And welcome to another week of United We Stand, Divided We podcast. We do have some very important things that we're going to talk about and discuss this week. First of all, I am Lionel from Toronto, Canada. And of course, right over this way, I'm going to get it right this time. Maybe.
And I am still Robert from Nashville, Tennessee, US of
You
A.
are. Much warmer weather there. However, we are in the spring. We'll say that.
I wouldn't say much warmer. It's 37 degrees right now, and the
Yeah.
wind's blowing, so
Yeah,
it's chilly.
this week we have a major topic to talk about. We're going to spend the entire hour talking about how my hockey team sucks and yours is on a winning streak.
Whatever.
I'm
We're
just
actually not
kidding.
talking about any hockey at
No,
all.
we're not.
So,
No, we're not. Uh, we're going to leave that one alone for this week. However, AI is still the big thing in the news, and well, you know what? Let's just get the crap out of the way first. To hell with it. We'll get the crap out of the way.
yeah.
I'll start from the Canadian end of it. We are not allowed to buy at the LCBO or the Liquor Commission Board, basically in Ontario, because it's a government run. You can buy liquor elsewhere, but that's the main thing for liquor. On the shelves, all of the American-made booze put away. They even had news teams go to several of these locations around and actually film them, actually taking the stuff off the shelves. Interestingly enough, they showed the shelf after they had taken the American stuff down, and 80% of the store is still full. We do make our own booze here,
Yeah, so see,
and people
there
have
you
to
go.
drink scotch instead of bourbon. That's it. Maybe you can have some kind of a sherry or something from from France or something. I don't know, whatever. But aside from that, there are all the tariffs are going through, and Trudeau, who, to be clear, the vast majority of Canadians don't want him in charge of the country anymore. So it doesn't matter whether Trump likes him or hates him. We don't care about that part of it.
Right.
But the one thing he is doing right is he's standing up for Canada. And he
Yeah.
basically said, and if you leave even one tariff on, we're not taking ours off. Uh, and I like that because, you're basically saying, oh, we're not going to bow down to you. And this is not against American people. So, American people, it's nothing to do with you. It's just the tyrannical government. And well, you know what? We're not going to get too much into it. The bottom line is it's going to be bad for everybody. There's things we won't be able to get at all, or we'll have a hard time getting, or will cost us more money. It's actually probably going to be considerably worse for Americans because they rely so heavily on things from Canada and Mexico in a serious way. So with that, I'll segue over to Robert talking about on the American end of how things are there, or how people are thinking, or what you have to expect.
Yeah. Well, so first off, I do want to say that I watched a press conference of that Trudeau did, and he actually, I was actually really impressed with his demeanor in the conference, and that he basically said, he stopped, he said, look, I just want the American people to know something. We have nothing against the American people. We love Americans. Americans love us. We're friends. We're we do this, we do that. This has nothing to do with the people of the United States. It has to do with their administration. So, he wanted to make clear, like, Canadians don't hate Americans. And I think that gets lost sometimes, and people like, oh my gosh, they hate this. No, it's not. Look, everybody understands what's happening, and unless you're just ignorant. So I've never taken it that, like, like, I would have no problem going to Canada, and I would not fear for my safety, like someone's going to beat me up.
Yeah, and you
Okay,
wouldn't have to either.
right? So it's not
Certain
that.
neighborhoods, but I'll steer you away from those.
Yeah, and he did too. He even came out and said, and we're probably still going to boo the American anthem at hockey games, because again, we're not booing your players, we're not booing your team, we're not booing the fans, we're booing the
Policies is the word.
the policies of the administration that is currently in power in the United States. And I was like, I was kind of nice that he actually, like,
Yeah,
specifically like, look, here's what's happening, so don't take it personal, and which I've
yeah.
never, taken it
I gotta I'm gonna put
personal.
something on so I can hear better. Um, the other thing too is I just want to mention that too that it brings out a patriotism, and Americans of all people should be able to understand patriotism because I know Americans in general as a whole. I mean, lumping everybody in there, but are very patriotic, and while some people make jokes about it or might talk down about Americans over their patriotism, it's something that a lot of countries actually envy is that patriotism because it means they're obviously happy where they are. They like raising their family and working there and taking local vacations even, which is pretty bold word to use in a country the size of the United States. Is it local is like
Yeah.
a lot like half of Africa almost or a third of it, right? But in any case, uh but yet I've actually talked to people from America in the past who can't understand somebody else's patriotism. And, well, you don't live in the greatest country in the world. I said, yeah, but to us it is.
Right.
To you, you are. To people who live in France and love being French, they believe they're living in the greatest. And there's nothing wrong with being patriotic and wearing a French flag, or being patriotic and wearing an American flag, or being patriotic and wearing a Canadian flag. And
Right.
people talk about us not being patriotic. Go watch some highlights from the 2010 Vancouver games and see how patriotic Canada was then. And that is nothing compared to now. And that during those games, there were two things that stood out in my mind. One was all the people singing "O Canada" in the streets just because they felt like it, and the other one was during a curling match in the Olympics. And you can, you as Americans, you might be thinking, "Well, what?" It is curling, and it's big in Canada, and it's big in Norwegian countries. I was going to say in Scandinavian countries. Thank you very much. uh, and Europe and whatnot, in basically places with snow. And Canada's traditionally been one of the top countries, so they were on pace to win the gold, and they did. But before that happened, I think it was during the gold medal game, and it hadn't been decided yet. And one of the guys what they call a skip, he was kind of analyzing the rocks on the sheet, and he was figuring out what he wanted to do with his next shot. And the crowd broke out into singing "O Canada," and they sang it in its entirety. And the game just basically paused to let him finish. And the announcers shut up and let the crowd sing it. It was remarkable. It's very similar to going to basically any sporting event or wrestling match or whatever, and suddenly the crowd breaks out into USA, USA, except they sang "O Canada."
Right.
Yeah. So we're patriotic, and we're going to be very patriotic about all of this because we're being threatened to be annexed and have our identities completely wiped out and have to suddenly pay for health insurance. We're pissed off. But again,
Well, the thing about
it has nothing to do with Bob and Mary on 14th Ave in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's just about the government.
well, that's the thing is just what I was going to say is that the whole point in what spawned his answer was a reporter asked, "Is this an act of war?" And
Right.
he wanted to be clear. This is not, we're not lining our tanks up and we're fixed to go to war and we're going to go to battle. This is a economic war. It's definitely a war of economies, so to speak. And it's a war of patriotism. Okay, but it's
Yeah.
not physically a war. He want to make sure, like,
Yeah.
look, we're not going to war. We're not like
Right.
putting lives, in the middle of a battle.
That's
So
right.
so I thought that was kind of good.
But you
He kind of
realize that
cleared
in
that
the
up.
minds of Canadians, especially older ones like me, who clearly remember the Cold War, sorry, and clearly remember duck and cover drills in elementary school. Yes, I'm old enough to actually remember having to do a duck and cover drill. That was scary times, right? So when America, the one country that we've been saying all our lives, oh, we're never going to go to war with them again. We're allies, and that's always going to be like that. And it's just he's saying, oh, we're going to annex you, but the problem is it's never going to happen like that. You're not just going to basically say, okay, we're taking over your country and we're just going to bow down. People will take arms. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
People will take
if
up
it
arms,
yeah,
and we will defend ourselves to the
I think it's
bitter
ever
end.
going to get there. Honestly, I really don't, and it's kind of ridiculous to think that. I just don't think that it's going to obtain that level of um,
Well,
pushback.
yeah,
I
well, yeah,
just
not necessarily. I hope not. But the one thing that is worrisome because it could happen if this presidency went more than 4 years, and before anybody wonders how is that even possible, I said this during his first presidency. If he ever makes it to be president in a second term, whether it's back to back or 4 years later, at the end of his second term, he won't want to leave. What is he going to do? He's going to cause all kinds of havoc and probably have paid thugs somewhere. You won't be able to prove it, but that's what'll happen. And he'll end up declaring martial law, and then there won't be an election.
well, that's a full on coup, and I don't again I don't think it's ever
But
going to get to that.
but
I think
you
there's
do
too
realize
many
that
people in the states that would bear arms against
I
that.
certainly hope
So
so, and I
yeah.
guarantee you, and then you can mark my words, if that happens and Americans are bearing arms against it, and half the military says, I'm not going with this, I'm going the other way, and there's generals supporting them, and they've got tanks and everything else, you know that Britain and Canada would have their backs. Beyond that, if you think Canadians wouldn't sneak across the border with arms, with a carload of personal arms to help out, think again. It'll happen. I guarantee it. There people would do it. Because this is again, we have a lot of us have family, friends, or coworkers in the U.S. A lot of people in both sides of the border have people that they care about on the other side of the border. So nobody
Well,
wants.
this despite the bullshit that it's bringing in, it's. I mean, people are already feeling effects. There's, of course, the whole thing with China. There's a lot of agriculture that comes from China. There's a lot of
China,
farmer people that are being affected.
right?
I haven't seen any gas prices increase, but I heard that there's other states, maybe farther north, I suppose, that are being affected by gas prices already. Of course, one of your premiers is threatening to turn off the power to the
That's Ontario.
northeast United States,
That's
and
Ontario. Yeah.
I guess he has the right to do that. I mean, you piss somebody off, and they're going to turn the spigot off, so to speak. I don't know what Trump thinks he's going to do to restore power to, however many tens of millions of people. That's going to
Listen, I'm going to
put
be
him in the
honest with you.
dark. But
It's a doable thing. They won't be in the dark for very long, but the problem is that they're going to have to do a massive amount of money spending to shore up the power grid, to put in new transformers, new switches, build an entirely new set of transformer station, or whatever you call them, the power stations where they step up and step down stations.
yeah,
Um,
well, it's not like I'm going to unplug this power cord and plug it over here, and now I'm good to go. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not
no.
that simple.
No, no,
So,
no, the reason why it's even possible is because of the blackout that happened in 90 whatever.
oh, I
Uh,
remember that. I had to go up north to repair a server for a client because
yeah,
it got toast when the power came
yeah,
back
no
on.
doubt. Yeah. They probably didn't know. Unplug it first. After you got a blackout that's affecting half of the damn continent, you're supposed to turn your shit off.
Yeah.
But anyways, that after that they made a lot of changes to the grid so that it can't affect it in such a widespread fashion anymore. There are better safety features. So if Ontario cuts off the power to that region, that's not the only place they get power from, but they do have a way to actually ramp it up. But there will be brownouts, probably for months before they can get something up and running that'll make it work. Um,
Yeah.
Smaller
So
communities will end up using, like portable generating stations and portable step-up stations and stuff.
It's going to be a shit show because I mean, there's so many manufacturing plants in Mexico. Let's take Canada out of the picture.
Yeah,
Like my car, my Ford Fusion, it came from I think it's Hermosa, Mexico, or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
It's one of the cities. You know, it's where Ford has a big plant.
Yep.
So you know, you're talking about, you know,
And Trump just thinks, okay, well, yeah, but we can bring it all back here and do them all in Detroit and New Mexico or something. When? Did you know how many years it takes to build a plant that you can actually
yeah,
produce 400 cars a day? Oh
yeah,
my God. This is
yeah,
you're talking about Ford and GM and Chrysler here. Not the 10,000 Fiats that came in last year. I mean,
yeah.
this is not something you can do overnight. It takes a long time to build something like that. I mean, we're a little concerned up here because this is car country here where I am. I everywhere around Toronto, parts of Southern Ontario, there's Ford and GM and whatnot out here, and they're really concerned that those plants are going to be struggling hugely because about I don't even remember what the number is. So I'm gonna say something to pull it right out of my butt, but it's not correct number. But it's somewhere along the lines of around 80-ish% of the cars they make go to the US. But interestingly enough, the cars that we buy in Canada that are of the American brands, about 80 to 90% are made in Canada. So we're kind of safe. And prices will go up if they can't sell enough in the US because manufacturing costs go up. They'll start having to let some people go and there'll be less jobs. So it's
So
it's it's
on
this
so
industry is
much.
trouble. So it looks like after his service is done, I use that term loosely. It looks like both the American and Canadian governments are going to go right back and have to bail out all of the American automakers again, like they had to in the last recession
Well,
20 years ago.
I can't see. Yeah, there's a lot of manufacturer CEOs. I know I've read an article. Ford CEO. He's like, this is gonna like he goes, I'm not excited about it. You know, Trump goes, oh, they're so happy. No, they're not. They're not happy.
No, they're not.
They're not happy, and so you know, he's gonna end up having a lot of corporate pressure that he just can't ignore. There's
Yeah,
too
well,
much money in that corporate pressure that they can't ignore.
yeah, the things that he claims though is always false. He's making up all kinds of mumbo jumbo about Canada. I mean, we already talked about the whole thing about less than 1% of the fentanyl going to the US is coming from Canada, whereas something like 80% of the fentanyl coming to Canada is coming from the US. I mean, it's like uh
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway, so you know, that's enough on the rant because
yeah,
we could go on all night,
and we
and
don't
we
want
just want to
to.
say, look, Canadians, Americans, we all love each other. This has nothing to do with the governments not
Yeah.
liking the citizens of each country. It has to do with one government thinking he's a bully
Yeah.
and being an ass.
Yes.
So
So the booze are not for you. They're not for your team. They're just for the government. And just to put this into point, for most of this NHL season, most fans in Canadian cities would sing along with the Canadian national anthem. But when they got to the point where they said free, the word free in the song, there were a chorus of boos every single game, everywhere in Canada. So we're booing our own country too. So it's not you, it's the government. Trust me. That's true. But the thing is that we already know we're getting rid of our prime minister because at least, despite all of his faults and his pissing off the country, at least he had the balls to say, "You don't want me, I'll step down." And so we're having an election. I don't think you'll ever see a president do that. Well, no, we did once. We did once. Nixon.
oh yeah,
He actually did technically step down. They impeached
before
him.
my
They
time.
didn't throw him out of office. He actually stepped down. Anyways, let's move on. Should we talk
Yeah,
about
so so
AI
I'm gonna talk about my gripe first with
Oh,
technology.
yeah.
So back when before the S25 even came out, there was rumors that Samsung was going to paywall some of their
Yeah.
AI features, and I hadn't heard anything else about it. Everything's working. I just assumed maybe it was just a rumor. They decided not to, but apparently it's still on the table. Apparently, the article I read from Android Police, they said that they don't know like exactly what features might or might not work. They don't know like when they might do it. They don't know how much it might
Right.
cost. There's a lot of we don't knows because I mean one of their things was like, well, like for me, as much as I enjoy the photography side of things, if they took away some of the photography aspects of the Galaxy AI, I'd be bummed. So, you know, I kind of hope they
Yeah, I don't think
don't do
I
that,
don't
but
yeah, I think that would be pretty crappy, especially since, again, nobody else is actually charging for those
yeah.
AI enhancement features and things like the camera. The only thing that anybody even remotely pays for in AI regarding phones is generally if you don't have access to, something with free feature. I mean, basically, Gemini costs money. I don't think of it as that way because I mean I'm paying for Google One anyways, and my phone gave it to me free for a year, so I'm not actually paying for it right now. But even when that's over, I still will be paying for Google One, and I just so happens that I can add on the Gemini part of it. So why wouldn't I?
Well, that's a good point.
But
So like I pay, X number of dollars a month for storage because I keep a lot of my files, pictures,
right,
videos I do from my YouTube channel, et cetera, in the cloud storage. So I have
yes,
2 terabyte plan, which includes the Gemini Advanced. So it's already part of that, right? Well, basically all of the Galaxy AI stuff for the most part is backboned by Gemini, if maybe not all of it. So basically that's like a double dip, right? So I'm getting charged by Google to have advanced Gemini, and then I'm turning around and getting charged by Samsung to get that advanced Gemini in
you
a
know what I think?
Samsung branded app. To me that would be kind of bullshit.
I have a thought. Here's what I believe is that maybe they're possibly considering is basically charging you for these features, but it then gives you Gemini Advanced. It's kind of like
So then you're gonna
it's
give me
kind of
my
like
two
you
terabytes of storage for free?
hang on a sec. Well, yes, but hang or maybe just the AI. I don't know. But whatever. Anyways, it's kind of like this. You go to AT&T and say I'm sick and tired of the other guy. I want your television. What other perks you get with that? Oh, well, you get an extra couple of Wi-Fi pods because you're going to get the internet too, and Netflix for a year. Why not? Right? Um, and it's kind of like that because they're not giving you Netflix for free. Technically, you're being upcharged.
No, nothing's up for
You know,
free, but
yeah,
I feel like I'm
you're being
getting double
upcharged and they're
charged.
throwing it in, but you may not be. That's what I'm saying. They may be giving that like because here's the thing: if Google says if they work out the deal with Google, and this is how they would do it, they'd work out a deal with Google. Google gives them a little bit less, and they say we got a bunch of guys because a lot of let's face it, this is going to be a fact. Okay, if you take 1,000 pixel owners, probably 800 of them are paying for Google One. Unless they're just teenagers, but you know what I mean. The adults, businessmen, whatever, right? Using a Pixel, probably all paying, most of them paying for Google One. You take the same group of people and put a Samsung in their hand, they don't give a shit about Google One. Some of them have never heard of it and they don't care. So you understand what I'm saying, right? So they're not even going to get it anyways in some cases. So what they work this stuff out and they go through the marketing numbers. They know what percentage of people do and don't, right? Google says, "Well, we'll give your customers access to Google One with Gemini Advanced for 75 or 75, 25% less or something like that." And then Samsung charges you probably close to the same amount, maybe $5 less or something than Google One would charge, and gives you the extra things that only a Samsung will do on top of that. and it would probably include the storage for Google too, for Google Drive. So you'd probably still get your 2 terabytes of storage in your Gemini Advance, and then maybe it would cost you $5 less. Maybe it'd cost you the same amount. Now, if it costs you the same amount, I'd say you do it anyways because you get some of those Gemini, I mean, some of those Samsung features that you wouldn't get otherwise. Um, but if it cost, $1 more, I'd say screw the extra Samsung features and just go with the Gemini Advanced. So yeah, I doubt you have to be doing. What is it on your camera, for instance, that it does that you can't do without uh, whatever they call it, Samsung
Well,
call it?
I honestly find that editing my pictures with the Samsung Gallery app and the Samsung features actually works better than using the Google Photos app sometimes.
Yeah.
So, and
Okay.
some of that is the AI side of that being on device
Yeah.
and doing, edits. Just
Right.
like, we were talking about a few podcasts back of, how it removes items and you can move items around. I
Yeah.
can't really do that as effectively with the Photos app as I can the gallery app from Samsung. So if they take that capability away from that, that would affect me because I use that
Wait, the
not
moving
like
things
every
around
picture.
that's actually
No,
really good.
removing people and it, but I have much better success at it being a really clean looking picture with Samsung than I do with Google.
Oh, well, that's interesting because the weird thing about it is maybe when you're doing it in the app, you're using what's the tool called? Excuse me, while I actually go into it. Because there's two ways to do it in Google Photos. So let me just find a picture with a human being in it that's not a video. Come on, are you serious? Okay, here we go. All right, so I tap edit. No, I tap edit. I missed. Sorry. Tools, and then I can go into Magic Eraser, for instance. Garbage. I thought it was great when it first came out, but I always knew that you always had to clean it up. Instead of that, you tap where is it? Can I get this on the camera here? Is it not going to focus at all? Come on, are you serious? Well, there's a button here somewhere. Oh, you're not even looking at the screen.
Yeah,
And
you're talking about down. Yeah, you're talking. Well, I was looking here. You're talking about this little like icon
yeah,
down here at the
yeah,
bottom.
yes,
Yeah,
right. So when you tap that one, then you can say, I'm going to circle this shovel I've got in my hand, for instance. Uh, well, apparently I didn't circle it. Let me try that again. Yeah, there we go. See now, see how it look. Oops, geez, I put it too far. Oh, yeah, come on. Okay, see the shovel is washed out. So
right.
that's what that is. So I'm gonna hit erase on that now. It does take a couple of, a little bit because it's partly cloud stuff doing it. But look at that. That is, Jesus, come on. It's clean. And before you wonder what's on next to my arm, that's actually a garbage can in the background. That's actually there. That's not a bad picture.
Yeah.
And it gives you four different possibilities in case one looks cleaner than the next, right? So I'm gonna just get rid of that now. Put that back the way it was. Hit cancel, and I'm now gonna do it with Magic Eraser to show the example of exactly
Oh
what
yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking about. It's gonna look like, well, the garbage behind it. Um, Oh, see, it's still looking for suggestions. See, this is taking longer. I can't even do anything until it's finished looking. This is why
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
like Magic Eraser. And
yeah.
we
I
we
don't even know
talked
why they
about this.
still have it.
They should get rid of it. I swear to God, that what they should do is you should be able to hit the Magic Eraser button. It should automatically go to the AI version. So I'm going to do the
Yeah.
same thing. Whoops, I missed it. Now I gotta wait for it to figure that out and then do it again because I screwed up. Okay, so get that in there. Now, I don't even know if it's actually even going to. Oh, it did. It actually didn't do that bad a job, but I don't know if I can get it to focus. Oh, you can't see it very well. Oh no, you might be able to. Yeah, see my sleeve closer to where the wrist is going to be.
Yeah.
There's a sharp pointed thing sticking out of it. it.
Yeah.
It didn't do that with the AI version. This isn't bad, but the snow itself looks like it was deliberately placed exactly that way, not shoveled. So yeah, there's a difference to that. It's way better in the AI version of it
Yeah, well,
because
anyways, I really hope that they don't end up doing that, but I guess we'll see. This whole AI thing
yeah,
is kind of, still in its infancy, and they're still figuring a lot of stuff out and deciding this, deciding that, and I don't know. We'll see. I'm thoroughly happy with this phone, though. I mean, this phone has been a definite upgrade from the S23, and definitely
yeah,
worth it.
well,
I'm glad I waited, not got to 24, because it even has features the 24 doesn't.
yeah,
Not that
but
I probably don't even use all of them anyways, but
thing is,
I just think,
if you had gotten the 24, chances are you might have skipped the 25, thinking it's not a big enough upgrade, and then by the time you
yeah,
figured out that maybe you should have, there'd be an S26 available. But anywho,
yeah.
still
So
on the
I'm glad I
subject
waited.
of AI. Still on the subject of AI. I decided I wanted to talk about something that I think is a possible future of AI and gaming, and well, with console gaming specifically. And because there's so many things that AI can get built into, and I wondered what would it be like if you played The Last of Us, if there was going to be a Last of Us Part 3, which apparently Neil Druckmann has said don't count on it, and he just said it like yesterday or something. A lot of pissed off people, me included. Want to know what happened to Ellie? Damn it. Anyways, no spoilers. Um. Anyways, the game's old. I can spoil the hell out of it now. Anyways, but imagine you're playing The Last of Us Part Two, and you're walking through Jackson, and instead of just petting a dog and walking up and listening to somebody talk, because of the large language model that would be built into the game, not built into the game, but it would be able to actually access the large language model built into the console. It'd be a future console. You could never upgrade a current model. You need uh, various different hardware, and not just software, but hardware. And we'll get into that in a second. But just imagine this: you're walking through Jackson, and you decide, I know I'm not going to follow Jesse right now. I want to go talk to these people. So you go over, and instead of just getting a prompt that says hi or something like that, or just listening to them talk, you can actually, through your headset, say hi. The large language model recognizes this, knows which character you're trying to talk to, and actually starts to talk back to you. So you ask it a question and it can answer it because it's a large language model, but it does it in the voice of the character that was programmed. Now, if you don't turn on your mic or don't engage, they'll just do whatever's in the script. That would be cool. Now, it wouldn't work for everything, but it would also be kind of cool if you could do that when you're in a fight scene. And instead of just wondering, where is the guy, you could yell out, hey, and all of a sudden the guy sticks his head up and you shoot him. I mean, just imagine what you can do. That would be absolutely glorious. Now, here's the discussion now on the feasibility of this and why I actually believe that this is the next major evolution of console gaming. And if you think this is not going to happen, it's not going to happen soon. It won't happen in a PS5. Well, it can't happen PS5 Pro. That's already done. It won't happen in the PS6. I doubt either. Maybe a 6 Pro, or more likely the 7 in about 8 years or something. But anyways, okay. I wrote this out. Do you have access to it, so we can go along with this
Yes.
together?
Mhm.
Okay. AI advancements for NPCs. The natural language processing, or NLP, enables NPCs to understand and respond to player speech, processing complex language and context. By the way, I did not write this. I told Gemini what I wanted and how I wanted it laid out, and that it was for discussion on a podcast. And Gemini put this together, and it took less than 10 seconds. So, yes, there's tons of things to use AI for. Anywho, that I understand. That explains how the AI would be able to. Well, not explains it, but it gives you an overview of how the AI would be able to interact with you through the NPC, or with NPC, NLP. Sorry, I said the bad wrong thing. NPCs through the NLP. We already know about large language models because that's the whole thing. machine learning can be put into effect as you play the game, and the game obviously saves everything that you've done. But in this context, everything that's said in the game by you, as well as just by what goes on in the game, it can remember that. If you say it in front of someone else, the game programmer or developers could even program into the game that certain people might be in earshot of you, and if they're actually associated with somebody that you're supposed to have a problem with later in the game, they rat you out and change the course of the game. There's so many possibilities here. You open
Yeah.
your mouth too much, and you could get in trouble for it. Could you imagine playing a police simulator and you decide I'm going to shoot this civilian on the street because it's just this police simulator. I'm having fun. I'm going to crash into a pole and knock it down. And then you go to turn your car in at the end of the day. And unlike any other police simulator where they just say, oh, you docked $400 for the day, you must start as a rookie tomorrow. Instead, they're going to say, we need your badge and you got to go to court tomorrow. And then you get to fight your way out of prison for a prison break.
Yeah, that's funny.
But no, I'm overreaching now, but you know what I'm saying. Voice recognition and synthesis, we're already there. That's done. And it's still much like anything to do with AI, it's getting better all the time.
Yeah.
Except unless you're trying to text Robert with Gboard. That doesn't count.
It's the Lionel Gboard add-in
Lionel board. The Lionel board.
that jacks it all up.
Yeah. But here's the cool part about it, okay? Local processing and NPUs, on-device AI coprocessors, neural processing units, and increased memory are crucial to minimize latency and handle computational demands, moving away from sole reliance on cloud processing. This is what makes this possible, because putting that coprocessor in there and then having the software written and everything that you need for the communication between the coprocessor, the processor, and everything else is what makes it possible. Then the large language model, well, come on. I don't care which one they go with. They can work with Google, they can work with ChatGPT, or OpenAI or whatever, right? Or they can build upon their own based on the public portions of the code of either one of those guys. Or those guys, you know what I mean, those companies, and make their own. And I think that this is a huge. Microsoft could have a massive head start because they can literally put, most of the code of Copilot in and just strip out the Copilot part of it. It's basically Chat GPT with a different name. So they already technically have a head start into getting an Xbox because Xbox is Windows. For those who don't know, it's Windows. And for those who don't know, PlayStation is Linux. And anybody thinks it isn't. It says so right in the damn thing. Like, it actually says it on it. Just like it says Linux kernel on here too. And on your so yeah, if you're not Apple, you're Linux. And if you're Apple, then you're Unix. That's the difference.
One starts with an L.
Yeah. Well, no, there is a difference. Linux is built on.
I know, as a joke.
But yeah, no, I'm just making it so because there's going to be somebody that's going to be listening to this going, there's a difference. Don't you understand that Linux was built on the Unix code in the first place? And yes, I do understand that. Thank you.
Yeah, Linus is God. Don't insult Linus.
That's right.
They get upset sometimes.
Now there's another thing here. What's this? Edge computing, processing data closer to the source to reduce latency. I think that comes into the point of the local processing. But I think what they're saying basically there is that anything that's done outside of the coprocessor can still access the coprocessor instantaneously with extremely low to almost zero latency, which again makes being able to interact with an NPC very titillating. Yes, I use that word. Future hardware. Gaming systems will evolve with dedicated AI processing, enabling dynamic conversations, personalized interactions, emergent behavior, and enhanced immersion with NPCs. And by the way, I didn't tell it exactly what to say. I told it the basic idea of the next evolution that I believe would be putting AI into gaming and how that would work with NPCs. And it wrote exactly all that stuff. And that's what I was thinking. So even AI is on top of this. So what do you think, Robert? How do you think? Would you like to play a game that you could actually interact with the NPCs?
I mean, yeah, I mean that would be really cool. I think you'd have to kind of be a little careful with that because obviously it could you could get into doing things that are a little weird. I'll just say, but
Well,
yeah, it would be interesting to say the least. I mean,
yeah,
if you could actually have that kind of interaction, um, but I guess they would have to constrain its knowledge to just what the game is like about, so to speak. Like, you couldn't just walk up to him and start talking about like world politics, right? And you're
right.
in a first person shooter, right? So I mean, obviously, it'd just be like what's genre or game specific kind of information, like I could walk up and say like, "Hey, where's that guy that shot this guy over here?" And be like, "Oh, I think he ran over that way," or something.
Right, right.
It'd be pretty wild. It'd be pretty wild. Yeah, I don't. I've learned to not say, "Oh, that's never going to happen" or "that can't happen," because things are happening now that I thought 10 years ago would never happen.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of possibilities that we don't even know about.
Well,
So
here's the thing. I think there's going to be safety features that will be built into the systems
this is
in the
going to have to be.
before that. And the first one would be incredibly important is for those who just say, okay, they're going to walk up to a character and start, throwing racial slurs. They would
That's
automatically
another
be
thing.
given an instantaneous warning saying, "You have been warned one more time, and the game will reset." and
Yeah.
and actually force you to start again. Now they can complain all the well, I paid for the game. Well, then don't use racial slurs when you're actually talking to the NPCs. Now, if you're doing this in your own house, the NPCs can't hear you in games today. Nobody
Kind of like
cares,
kind of like
right?
what happened to me on my TikTok a while back for some reason. I got banned for 2 weeks.
Oh, I can't even explain how that is a thing. I wouldn't know. I will also wouldn't know anything about getting banned
In your own chat.
for vocal chat on COD. I can't talk to anybody on COD through the gaming channel, that is, for 14 days. I have no
Yeah.
idea why. My mic wasn't even on. But
But
anyway,
that's dumb though. I see rants about that all the time, and I agree with people.
yeah,
You bought a rated M for mature 18 and over
yeah,
game,
yeah,
and now I understand bullying.
yeah. Well,
You don't want to tell somebody go kill themselves or
if
some
it's
stupid thing like
excessive,
that. But come on, I
well, yeah,
mean,
if it's excessive and you're using horrible racial slurs, then yeah. But if it sounds like a please help me with the word colloquial
if you
term.
sound like a bunch of sailors standing around
No,
cussing each
no,
other,
no. Yeah, no, that's not what I was gonna say. What I was gonna say, if you just sound like say a bunch of African Americans that talking to each other on the street corner in Chicago, you're gonna hear a word that sounds like the N word, but it's not. It ends with not er. And so when people say that, they're not actually being racist. I mean, even white people say it, and they're not actually being racist. So you have to be careful where those bans come from, right? But if you're bullying, like you're saying, or something like that, then that's completely different. If you
yeah,
actually are uttering racial slurs, then yes, you should be banned. But the bottom line is with the AI, I think because it's AI and it's machine learning, you don't want it to learn that behavior, obviously. So you would have a cutoff and an order in it that it would not learn that information, and that cutoff would already be done. And then your second ban would be, or sorry, your second offense within that same gameplay would have your game reset or something.
I know what they could do.
But
If you
that
did talk to an NPC like that, it could look at you and say, "I don't talk like that," and then shoot you in the head, and then your game's over.
yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, absolutely. And some games probably would be able to do something like that, or would consider it. Another one would be you're talking smack and you're getting all racist about it with the NPC, and then instead of the message, like I said, The NPC would basically look at you and say something like, "You don't need to talk to us like that, sir." And then you'd be like, the smart ass, and you're like, "Okay, I'll shoot him," but nothing happens.
Yeah.
It completely can't. You can't hit them. You can't shoot them, and doors stop working, and then the entire town turns on you, or the entire you know
Yeah.
bus or ship or whatever the environment of the
Yeah.
game is, and you stand no chance. You respawn and you just get killed over and over again until you actually apologize. Now that would be interesting if you start begging and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." The NPCs would then, okay,
Yeah.
we'll give you one more chance. I
Are you really?
But you could build that in, right?
Yeah.
That would be now I forgot the other point I was gonna make, the other rule, because we kinda went off the track on it a little bit. Uh, but I do really think that that is the next big evolution of gaming. The next big evolution of gaming isn't just gonna be that, your light's gonna look better in a video game than it did last time, because nobody cares anymore. We cared until they put it out, and then we said, "Well, it looks nice, but now I just want my gun to shoot faster in COD."
Yeah, I think another thing too that they're going to have to address is one, overall cost of the hardware. I imagine that's going to
Yeah.
jump the cost up. But number two is you're going to have a tremendous amount of storage. So they're going to have to increase, like, what, instead of buying it with a 500,
Oh, no, wait a
gig.
minute. I'm sorry. Forgive me for the cutoff, but not really. I mean,
No,
we're
I understand, but
we're
you're
talking
missing what
about,
I'm saying. I'm not talking about just because of the AI. I'm talking about having the game built with so much extra information in the game.
but it
You
wouldn't.
already have 136 gig downloads to update COD.
No, but
You know,
hang on a minute now. That's not even how that works. You got to remember that this is only dialogue. This is a large language model. It has nothing to do with the graphical part of it. The graphical part goes along with it because the guy moves more, but that's all going to be part of that anyways, right? So, I mean, you're talking about maybe a few hundred extra megabytes for some
no,
extra.
no,
Okay,
I
anyway,
don't.
all right,
I,
okay,
I'm
all right, okay, all right, all right.
I'm
I
not a
don't have
programmer, but
I
I
mean,
disagree
no,
with that
you're
100.
talking about
percent
an extra gig or two. That's literally what
I
it
think
is.
it's even. I think it'd
No,
even be more than that.
absolutely not, because again, we're only needing enough language for the game model. I mean, yeah, sure. If they build a game that is you have to attack the World Conference of the most intelligent people on Earth, and the conversations have to be all about particle physics, and, it's shit
Well,
like
so
that.
but
Or
what
quant-
if your game
quantum
is
physics, then
you have
all
to
of
go
a
out
sudden,
and recruit people to, and then, like, now you recruit people to go fight a battle, and suddenly you take the game in a whole different direction of, now you have to have this big battle that's being fought.
wait, hold
It's
it.
not just about the language, it's about the whole
No,
game
no,
environment.
hang on. You're forgetting two major important things. Only what happens on the screen is what needs to be for that. Everything else can be written as is it happening. Everything that's already happened and only has to be put into memory literally is just a short text file of what happened. That's it. Tiny little bit of binary, nothing else.
Okay.
I'm not kidding. That's how that works. You don't need a giant file to change the outcome of the game, because the game itself, all the possibilities are still written into it. It's not like it would be an infinite number of things that can happen. Even if you play Ghost Recon Breakpoint today, massively open world. And when I say open world, you can do anything you want at any point. There's no stopping you from going anywhere in that map at any point in time and doing anything.
I
But
still think you're going to have a
when you
way
leave
bigger file
when
of
you
updating.
leave the area, they respawn. When you go back, you have to kill them again. You can finish a story and the story's finished, but you can still go back to that base where you wiped everybody out to finish that story, and it's completely respawned everybody. So it's just the same text file being written over it again. So you don't need to add 2 gigabytes every time you decide to tell this guy, I'm going to kill your mother. And I got a whole gang of people. So they're going to get their gang now. And now all of a sudden it has to rewrite an entire story. It's not that's already written into it. So the game isn't, it wouldn't make the game any bigger. In that sense, you just need an extra couple of gigabytes for all of the large language model files. That's it.
I guess maybe in 2092 we'll find out.
It won't be 2092. It's 8 years from now.
I think it's going to require
PS7,
more than what we think it is, but or
PS7
more
or
than you think it is. But
the PS7 or the Xbox Claude. I don't know what the hell they're gonna call it. They have stupid names. Uh, Xbox Claude. Oh god. Maybe they should name it the Gates after the founder. The Xbox Gates.
well, last but not least, we talked about Gemini's project Astra.
Mm.
That is something that I think is really pretty cool.
Which, by the way, is another proving that what we're talking about actually can work, because this kind of runs on that line. More sophisticatedly, I should say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember watching that Google I/O where they were demonstrating that, and it was pretty impressive. It was pretty impressive. So
I'm salivating.
I don't know. It's going to be pretty cool to have live video screen sharing capability with your AI. But
Yeah, and just so that if people are not understanding what we're talking about, especially for those who are just listening, if you open up Gemini right now, most phones, anyways, I'm not sure if it's a free version on a non-Pixel device or a non-Samsung, but paid versions for anybody, free for a lot. You open up. Oh no, it's paid. It has to be paid only if you want to add files or anything like that. So you open up Gemini live, not live, sorry, Gemini, and you can tap the little icon at the bottom left and add a file or add a picture or turn on the camera and then ask Gemini what that is, or ask about it, or ask it to explain it, or whatever it is you want to talk about. With Gemini Live, with this Project Astra stuff, whatever they end up eventually calling it, because that's not what they're going to call it, I don't think. You'll be able to point your camera at whatever you want while you're talking to Gemini Live. You don't have to upload or push any extra buttons. And it's a live version, not the part where you have to hold the button down, talk, or tap the button and talk, and then it prints out its response and says it, and then you got to tap the button again. It's the live version where you just have a conversation. Oh, there we go. There we go. We're gonna have this happen again. Okay.
and it's right at the end too.
do I still have audio here?
Oh yeah, your audio is always fine. It's just the camera decides to blip itself out.
Okay, I'll be back in a sec. Oh, it's not working this time. Oh, I see. If in order to get it to come back, I have to actually select the camera first. Why? And at the end of this is 2 weeks in a row, is it not? For those of you listening, this is
Yeah.
that's right. It won't work until I go back into this. So you know
Right.
what? I'm going to talk only and try to fix it, but I'll let Robert go on.
Well, all you got to do is you did that some troubleshooting thing, and
Never
then
mind that. They don't want to hear that. You go ahead and talk podcast stuff.
well, I mean, I'm basically done. We were just going to chit chat about this Astra. So I don't have a whole lot more to even discuss. So I think AI is going to be, I think, in the news like just continuously. So I don't. It's not going to be out of the news. Well, it'll never be out of the news because again, it's just like technology. It just keeps going and going and going. And we're going to be talking about AI. We're going to talk about technology. Gosh, maybe the next time we do a podcast, we'll just be our own little like avatars.
Oh man.
So, anyways, well, on that note, I think we should wrap it up where you can actually say goodbye. Because, apparently you only get 1 hour of video before it shuts off.
Well, I know you probably have no idea who Wayne and Schuster were, but in the spirit of being Canadian right now, Wayne and Schuster were basically kind of like the Smothers Brothers of Canada. And at the end of their show, they had a kind of weird little song they would sing and go, "Well, I see by the clock on the wall Well, it's time to bid you one and all goodbye. So long. Goodbye until we meet again. So if you're old, you know what that is. If you're young, you probably think I'm a retard. But that's the end of that. So I'm just going to say from Toronto, I'm a Lionel in Canada. Well, I just said Toronto, so yeah, Canada. And
And I'm
wait for
Robert
president.
from Nashville, United States.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Ciao.